Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, an accused drug cartel leader is in custody in San Diego. I'm Eric Anderson, in for Dwayne Brown. Also tonight, these could be the last days for San Diego's only licensed medical marijuana clinic.
And I'm Peggy Pico. Coming up, details about San Diego's International Airport, why air traffic is at a 25-year low.
Freeway expansion and environmental improvements, an unexpected combination planned for the North County. And a San Diego landmark hits the century mark. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Pension changes are ahead for state workers. Today, lawmakers approved a package of changes, including a reduction in the state's share of contributions and an increase in the retirement age for new hires. Governor Jerry Brown supports the plan. He calls it the most far-reaching pension reform in state history. The last of the Arellano Felix brothers is now in San Diego to face charges for his alleged role in running Tijuana's most powerful drug cartel. Eduardo Arellano Felix was arrested in Tijuana in 2008. He lost his appeals to avoid extradition. For years, the Arellano Felix cartel controlled drug trafficking routes between Tijuana and San Diego. The other two Arellano Felix brothers are serving time in U.S. prisons. San Diego County's only licensed medical marijuana dispensary will be more than likely closing its doors to customers on Monday. It could be the final time the cooperative will be open for business in San Diego County. The cooperative holds a unique position. It is the only medical marijuana dispensary licensed under San Diego County's restrictive policy. The unassuming steel building sits across from El Cajon's airport, and the facility serves 2,500 active customers. Co-founder Bob Rydell says it's been tough the past 2 weeks.
I mean, every day we're dealing with people walking through this building crying. What are we going to do? How come they don't care? And what am I supposed to say to people like that?
Mother Earth is caught up in a big fight. California permits medical marijuana, but the federal government does not. And the Department of Justice began cracking down last fall after getting a steady stream of complaints. U.S. Attorney Laura Duffy ordered the clinic to close and threatened to take possession of the building and everything in it. Duffy wrote to KPBS that it is not a defense to either criminal liability or to the forfeiture of property that the dispensary is providing medical marijuana. The United States Attorney's Office supports eviction of the commercial marijuana businesses like Mother Earth that operate outside of federal law. Rydell says the business managed to stave off closure 7 weeks ago by filing for bankruptcy protection pending an appeal. That legal stay ends Monday.
We're going to keep fighting for it. We're still a corporation with no home, but we can't stop this fight. We will stop dispensing, and we will look for other legal means to reopen. Hopefully here, maybe somewhere else that complies with the ordinance. We don't know.
Rydell says the closure of Mother Earth means there are no licensed medical marijuana facilities in the county to serve an estimated 70,000 patients who don't have a regulated supplier. The issue has been smoldering since California passed Proposition 215 in 1996. Mother Earth attorney Lance Rogers says the state and federal government need to resolve their differences. A federal judge could change how marijuana is classified, and Rogers says President Barack Obama can act.
The closure and the actions by Laura Duffy here in San Diego are at the direction of President Obama, who said that he would leave this alone. So he has control over federal drug policy. Congress could also act. There are a number of bills that address various aspects of this.
None of that action will come soon enough to help the Mother Earth cooperative stay open. The building is being cleaned out. Keys will be turned over to the landlord on Tuesday. Mother Earth officials say they plan to hold on to their status as a corporation. Even though the location is shutting down, that'll allow them to raise money for their legal fight and to possibly reopen. Some good news about San Diego schools in the latest results from California's standardized testing. More San Diego Unified students met state targets on reading and math tests. It is the fourth straight year of increases, with 61% of students meeting the reading target. The reading results put San Diego Unified tied for first place among the state's 10 largest districts, and it was third for math. The Board of Education's president says the steady improvement sends a clear message.
Very simply, San Diego schools are schools worth investing in. When you see these types of results, it's really worth the public, the community, putting the money behind it so that we can continue forward. And there are going to be a lot of decisions made this year by the public, by the legislature, and everybody else about funding for public education.
The results also showed a continuing achievement gap for African American and Latino students. Officials say that programs aimed at closing that gap are in place at all city schools. A bigger freeway and better environment. It's not just a combination you would expect, but Caltrans says it has found a way to have both. Today, the agency unveiled its plans for expanding Interstate 5 in the North County. The freeway crosses 6 lagoons as it goes up the coast. Caltrans says its plans include improvements for the lagoon environment.
One way is to provide longer bridges in 3 of the lagoons, and those longer bridges allow for better lagoon quality, water quality, better flow of water. Second way is to found several opportunities for restoration of habitat, creation of new habitat, preservation of habitat. And then third way is to improve bike and pedestrian connectivity in those areas.
Caltrans will hold a hearing on the proposal next month in Encinitas. The public has 45 days to comment on the plans. Air traffic at San Diego International Airport is at a 25-year low, but the Regional Airport Authority and others still want to build a new airport elsewhere. Peggy Pico has details.
A 2006 ballot initiative to relocate San Diego's main airport to Miramar failed to get voter approval, and dire predictions that Lindbergh Field would reach capacity in a decade seem to have been greatly exaggerated. In fact, last year, takeoffs and landings reached their lowest level in 25 years. Here to talk more about this seemingly ongoing issue is Voice of San Diego reporter Rob Davis. Rob, thanks for being here.
Thanks very much.
You did a fact check on the basically the traffic area and what else on the San Diego airport?
Right. We wanted to look at projections, predictions, warnings that have been made in the city over the last 10, 15 years, see what's come true and what has not. And so the projections about demand for Lindbergh Field was a major underlier of the discussion in 2006.
What were those predictions in a nutshell?
The airport authority said that between 2015 and 2022 that Lindbergh Field was going to become congested, have a huge impact on the local economy because flights would be delayed and getting in and out of there wouldn't be as easy. Routes wouldn't be added because there would be too much traffic there.
And what is the case now?
Well, as you said, demand is at its lowest level since 1986.
In talking about those predictions, that was something the airport authority actually used to bolster that 2006 initiative to try to move the airport. And I've heard it my whole life. Tell me about that. Tell me about how that case was developed and why people continue to say we need to.
Yeah, I mean, in the 1950s, people were saying that Lindbergh Field wouldn't be adequate for the jet age. And so it is a familiar refrain in the city that Lindbergh isn't good enough and it's not going to be good enough. It's proven, at least over the past few decades, that it's sufficient for our need today. And so when the airport authority made that big push, obviously they couldn't have expected that the bottom would fall out of the economy a couple of years later. And so that's what's led to the drop in, the precipitous drop in decline that's occurred.
Do you think that technology, people are able to work from their computers at home? Do you think any bit of technology has kind of changed maybe those predictions and made it less congested?
Well, I think that the economy is number one, but there is also, room at the airport for larger regional jets to replace smaller turboprops on flights to LA and that sort of thing. So, even within the airline industry, there's the ability to shift as demand increases for some of those routes.
You mean shifting, you were saying with the planes shifting smaller planes for bigger planes.
Exactly.
Because the technology is better to do that now. Do you think this issue do you think it'll continue to be an issue here on trying to move this airport?
Well, I mean, it's sort of one of San Diego's age-old debates. And so it's always kind of, I mean, it's one base closure away from, or base closure process away from coming back up. And so, yeah, the airport authority wisely sort of ducked its head down after the defeat in 2006, and they've redoubled their efforts to improve Lindbergh, and they're beginning a planning process to figure out 3 decades out what they'll do. So that's going forward, but there's always going to be, I think, in the back of people's minds, a question about the airport here.
But moving it to Miramar now, the focus on the Pacific Rim from the military, not likely, or is it likely, I should ask you, that they're going to give up that airport anytime soon?
I don't think that in the way that the airport authority asked for it in 2006, they would ever do so, which was politely saying, hey, can we use your base and just plop in an international airport here. I do think there has been in the past a look at that through the formal base closure process, and who's to say whether that comes up again, if that process begins again.
We don't have a lot of time left. My last question to you is safety issues. I didn't see that brought up, and I don't know if you addressed that in your fact check. Is that anything that the airport authority ever kind of tried to focus on when trying to make a case for moving?
No, I mean, most prominently in San Diego, there was the 1978 PSA crash, but it's safe to land at Lindbergh Field. We do it dozens of times a day, and so that was not something that was ever even hinted at as that discussion happened.
All right, very good. Rob Davis, Voice of San Diego, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Last October, California began transferring low-level offenders from state prisons to county jails. One goal was to reduce the prison population, but the realignment is also expected to drive broader changes, leading to fewer people being locked up. Tonight at 8:30, we'll present a joint project by PBS member station KQED and the Center for Investigative Reporting, looking at how realignment has worked so far. A preview now from reporter Michael Montgomery.
The state has made progress in reducing its prison population to a level ordered by the courts. Now, counties and local jails must pick up the slack. The theory behind realignment is that local government can do a better job rehabilitating certain offenders. But in some counties, jails are filling up, and local officials are worried.
We have helped solve the state's overcrowding problem. However, it's not solving our own problems here yet.
The population of Fresno's jail has shot up by 30% under realignment, one of the highest increases in the state. And it's a more dangerous place, says Sergeant Terry Barnes.
We've had a lot of violence lately. Sometimes we have some very unpredictable people. They're trying to adjust to staying in a jail over a prison. They don't have the same freedoms that they've had.
The jail's only outdoor space is a series of large cages built on the roof. As these inmates exercise in sweltering heat, we ask them whether they're happier serving time in jail closer to home.
Some of you guys are here, you would have gone to prison, but you're in jail instead, right?
Yeah.
And what would you prefer?
I would prefer to go to prison. There's no programs here. There's no school, there's no education, there's no jobs. I mean, we go to yard. This yard is once a week, every Monday for an hour. That's it.
Many county jails have limited facilities because they were designed for short stays. Fresno's jail even faces a class action lawsuit alleging poor medical care. Still, some lower-level offenders are getting long sentences, only now they have to serve them at the county jail. This inmate will spend 5 years locked in the oldest part of Fresno's jail. Amy Granados has done time before, but in state prisons. She says that was pretty easy.
It's better medical. We have more space to, roam around. It's like you can have a life there that you can't really have here, but then again, being here is kind of like the worst thing, so it's almost like a blessing in disguise. I won't want to come back here, you know?
With its jails at capacity, Fresno is spending $4 million on additional space. That's nearly half the realignment money the county received from the state. But until the new beds are ready, the Sheriff's Department is releasing some felons back to the streets.
Can I go to Nanseg on elevator number 2? It's clear. 10-4.
Making a decision on who to keep in jail is an everyday, every hour decision at the Fresno County Jail. Right now, it's based on what the current charge is. And of course, the most violent don't get released. The murders, the robbers, the carjackers, they do not get released.
This guy, he has 6 felony warrants that are confirmed. He's a suspect in a burglary up at Hume Lake.
Still, Mims says there has been an uptick in property crime in the last few months, and she's wondering if it's due to realignment. On a recent Saturday night, her deputies prepare to make an arrest.
Give me your hands! Primary contact! Come on, get on your knees. On your knees.
The suspect has a long rap sheet, mostly for stealing cars. But Deputy Chris Curtis worries the man won't be locked up for long, if at all.
It's considered not a violent crime, so they're eligible for release if there's no room at the inn. And a lot of times there is not. Because if he gets out again on these warrants, good chance he'll be stealing cars and we'll be chasing him more and more, and he'll be crashing cars to get away from us again. So he'll do it all again. Yeah, right.
Repeat offenders fueled the state prison crisis. Now counties are being asked to do what the state couldn't do, keep felons from committing new crimes and going back to lockup. Some counties, like San Francisco, are testing new approaches. San Francisco is sending its probation officers into state prisons. They meet with inmates before they're even released as part of an ambitious reentry program.
Thank you. You're Mr. Tiger?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm Sarah Wanzer. I'm here from San Francisco Adult Probation.
Sean Tiger is finishing up his 4th term for drug charges. In the past, state parole agents monitored Tiger, but under realignment, it's different. His most recent conviction is considered nonviolent, so his fate is now in the hands of local government.
How many of your friends or acquaintances are taking illegal drugs regularly? None, few, half, most?
Most.
Okay. What kind of drugs?
Marijuana.
Officer Wanzer is assessing what programs are available to help Sean Tiger stay out of trouble.
Do you think your current or past legal problems are because of alcohol or drug use?
No, I would say greed.
Okay, so you were more selling?
Yeah.
Okay.
We caught up with Sean Tiger on the day of his release from state prison.
How does it feel to be out of San Quentin?
Fantastic. It's beautiful. I'm free. That's all I ever wanted, was to be free.
Tiger is here to meet with his probation officer. His top priority now is to get a job.
Mr. Tiger, come on back.
San Francisco is investing most of its state realignment money in services like drug treatment, housing, job training, and life skills counseling.
You can just come on in and have a seat right there. Yes.
After a half-hour interview, Officer Wanzer has lined up a busy schedule for Tiger.
Okay, so that's all set up for you. Here is Goodwill.
His next step will be meeting with a career counselor.
Okay, got it, ready to go.
Okay, all right, great.
Okay.
The probation department is using realignment money to help fund programs like this one at Goodwill Industries.
So right now I'm going to help you with the clothing voucher. For the mock interview that goes on within that week, that's the suit that I'm going to have you get with these $30.
Okay.
Okay? And then for Sean Tigers, there goes your token.
Tiger also gets bus fare to help him get to his classes. As he picks out clothes for potential job interviews, Tiger begins to think that San Francisco's approach might actually make a difference for him.
Well, I was very, very skeptical. It was, I was just like, well, okay, let me just sign this and get it over with, and then I get out, I'll be on probation. But once I got out, and Ms. Wasser started sending me to Goodwill and all these programs and all these things I was doing, I was like, okay, this is definitely better than being on parole. They're not giving you, the blow off or anything like that. They are literally giving you tools to better yourself.
San Francisco is betting that its investments in former inmates like Sean Tiger will pay off. Unlike Fresno, San Francisco's jail population has fallen slightly, says Probation Chief Wendy Still.
Our job is about protecting the public, and our strategies are doing that.
So we're proving that we're not being soft on crime. We're proving that we're being smart on crime.
You can learn more about the impact of realignment on Prison Break tonight at 8:30 here on KPBS. Does it feel like the heat's been hanging around longer than it used to? It's not your imagination. Researchers at Scripps Institution of Oceanography say heat waves in San Diego are getting longer, hotter, and more humid than before, especially in coastal communities. The study links local climate change to global warming. It says we'll get more frequent heat waves over the next decade. Landmark's Ken Cinema turns 100 this year. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando takes us on a tour of the last single-screen chain movie theater in San Diego.
The Ken Theater was built in 1912 in the then-new community of Kensington in San Diego. 1912 was also the year the American film industry began taking baby steps with films like D.W. Griffith's The Musketeers of Pig Alley. But as with many theaters back then, the Ken wasn't fully committed to the movies, says the Ken Cinema's current manager, John Luis.
Behind the screen here, there's an actual stage. In a lot of movie theaters, they had used stages for vaudeville between the reels.
Luis says the Ken was built about the same time as the Spreckles Theater downtown, but for a very different crowd.
This was built as sort of a boonies theater, and it was competing against the downtown theaters. Downtown at that time was about 10 cents a film, and here it was cheap, a bargain at 5 cents.
And you might see something like Griffith's pioneering 1916 film, Intolerance. Landmark Theaters took over the Ken in 1975. It also took over a lot of history and memories, says Ken Cinema assistant manager Sophia Verbiskar.
We have posters, boxes and boxes of posters. I don't even know how far they go back. We have so many mystery reels of just film. We don't know what's on them. I don't think a week goes by that someone doesn't come in here reliving memories from the place.
The Ken Cinema, wow, that's interesting. I came out here when I was in the 8th grade, and my parents bought this building here, which was a gift shop at the time. And next door was the theater, of course. Bob Birkin was the owner. He asked me one night, hey, how would you like to work at the theater? And I said, sure, why not? And what it involved is cleaning the theater every night and then changing the marquee on Thursday nights. And so I got $1 and a nickel a night. And I'm not sure I got anything extra for changing the marquee.
There was actually this woman, I think, who worked here probably in the 50s and 60s when Bob was the owner. She told me that he used to have a mirror right at the end of the booth stairs that he could watch from the booth what they were doing at the stand.
You can find very tangible history in the lobby with this carbon arc projector that was retired in 2006.
What distinguishes this from your modern projector is there's a lead element. It's basically a giant pencil. And when you run high current electricity through this, it creates an arc gap, and that spark is what creates the light for the film. And what's also unique about these, or the detriment of these, is that they only last for about 20 minutes, because this element will burn down over time. And hence, that's why we have 20-minute reels. So now we're going into our booth. Okay, so these are all the fire doors that existed back in as early as 1912. Nitrate film is very flammable, so if in fact there was a fire, there was a fuse here, and that would burn, and these would slam down and shut so that fire wouldn't go outside of the booth. We have 35mm projection right here. This is our digital projector, and this is our platter system.
Platter technology means a projectionist takes the individual 20-minute reels and splices them together on an editing bench to create one giant reel to place on a platter and to run through a single projector.
So all the film would rest on this turntable. And as you play the film, it'll go through the projector and then back out onto this top platter. So you have the film exiting one platter and then entering the next platter, and then start. We're very well known as a midnight movie theater. So, for example, we've always had a Rocky Horror Picture Show for some time.
As well as a sing-along sound of music.
It was so great because of the bouncing ball, and you had all the words along the bottom of the screen, and then you had all these people. Sometimes you'd have guys with full beards and biker outfits in their regular day wearing nuns' habits coming in there to sing. It was fantastic, and the place was just packed.
We're fully interactive, and we do a lot of crazy things here.
Like the spam tossing contest. And the Ken has the tiniest women's bathroom.
But these are all things that longtime patrons have come to love. And folks like Guy Hanford hope that the theater remains a vital part of the community for years to come.
If you're not going to the theater here at the Ken, you're missing one of the rare archival places you have in the community.
That was KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando. The Ken's 100th anniversary film series kicks off tomorrow at 11 with Intolerance. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening and a great weekend.